Michigan State Police are still investigating the motive behind a shooting yesterday in Missaukee County. Troopers were first called to a home on LaChance Road.
13-year-old on the phone stating she was shot in the arm. I'm having a hard time communicating with her.
At the house, they found a 45-year-old man, a 40-year-old woman, and a 16-year-old boy shot to death. A fourth victim, the 13-year-old girl who called 911 for help, she's now listed in stable condition. Police identified the shooter as 39-year-old Chad Hickman and began searching the area for him.
They located the suspect, Mr. Hickman, in a wooded area near Whitlock Lake with an additional 29-year-old female. Both were deceased. So that's where we're at today.
A fifth victim, a 53-year-old man, was found dead in a separate home. Investigators are now trying to piece together why this happened.
We want to make sure that we are giving 100% of our resources, 100% of our efforts to make sure that we are collecting and gathering all the accurate information to make sure that we're solving this case and bringing closure to our community members.
6 people dead in rural Michigan. A manhunt across 3 separate crime scenes. A suspect who took his own life in the woods before anyone could ask him why. You know the headlines already. What you don't know is everything underneath them. The court records, the divorce trial, the neighbor who says he saw this coming, and the 13-year-old girl who saved her own life with a phone call. There are still questions this investigation hasn't answered, and we'll be here when those answers come. This channel goes beyond the headline to examine the evidence, the people involved, and the details that can get lost in the news cycle. If you want that kind of coverage, subscribe now and turn on notifications. We're just getting started, and the next story may be one you don't want to miss.
Chad Hickman was my former landlord.
Penrose says Hickman lived in the neighboring house with his sister and made his life a nightmare.
He has been incredibly violent or making threats of violence, wanting to fight me over the course of the last year since he got out of jail.
Penrose says he never saw Hickman with a weapon, but did anticipate violence. Hickman had been going through a divorce, according to Penrose, adding his sister had a personal protection order against him.
We thought, maybe one day he'd go off the handle and maybe get in a fight with somebody and go back to jail, but we didn't think he was going to murder 6 people.
Penrose saddened by the loss, but believes it was preventable, saying he called police about Hickman's behavior before.
I feel like a year ago when he got out of jail was a crime against the public, honestly.
Friday, August 14th. Missaukee County, a quiet stretch of northern Michigan near Cadillac. At around 11:40 in the morning, troopers were dispatched to a home on South LaChance Road in Lake Township after a report of a shooting. They found 3 people dead inside. A fourth, a 13-year-old girl, was alive but critically wounded and rushed to a hospital. The suspect wasn't there. He had fled before troopers arrived, and that turned a single crime scene into a sprawling, multi-location manhunt. State police brought in their emergency support team, aviation, and canine units, and warned the public directly, this man should be considered armed and dangerous. Do not approach him. His name was Chad Hickman, 39 years old, from the Lake City and Jennings area, just a few miles from the first house. While troopers searched, they found a 4th victim inside a second home, a home that belonged to Hickman himself. Then they found his vehicle near a wooded area by Whitlock Lake in Caldwell Township, about 13 miles south. Inside those woods, Hickman, dead, along with a 5th victim, a 29-year-old woman. Final count, 6 dead, including the suspect. 1 survivor, fighting for her life in a Grand Rapids hospital. As of this recording, police still haven't released an official motive. At the LaChance Road home, 3 people died. A 45-year-old man, a 40-year-old woman, and a 16-year-old boy. Their names came out through family, not police. David Everett identified the woman as his daughter, Amanda. Her 16-year-old son, Eric, died alongside her. The surviving 13-year-old is Amanda's daughter, Bella, according to the family. She was shot 4 times inside her own home and still managed to call 911 and identify the shooter before help arrived. Her grandfather called her a hero. She's since been listed in stable condition. At Hickman's own home, police found a 4th victim, a 53-year-old man. His connection to Hickman has never been officially confirmed. Near Whitlock Lake, alongside Hickman's body, was a 29-year-old woman, also never officially identified. Whatever you've seen online guessing at who these two people were to him, treat it as unconfirmed, because it is. Amanda Everett deserves more than a line in a police report. A childhood friend, Kimberly West Moffitt, who'd known her since first grade and graduated with her from Lake City High School in 2004, described her as bright, caring, and a devoted mother who never carried anger toward anyone. David Everett's response to losing his daughter and grandson wasn't just grief. He asked people to teach their children compassion instead of hate, so other families wouldn't have to bury their kids the way his family just did. He called what happened a cowardly act by an evil person. From the outside, nothing about him looked dangerous. He'd lived in the area for years, ran a house flipping and rental business with his ex-wife, posted about video games on Facebook. Ordinary. The court records tell a different story, and according to at least one neighbor, it's a story people saw coming. In January 2024, Hickman was arraigned on 9 charges tied to an incident from 2010, 14 years earlier. The complaint came from his then-wife. The charges included assault with intent to do great bodily harm, 2 counts of first-degree criminal sexual conduct, domestic violence, interfering with electronic communications, multiple counts of 4th-degree child abuse, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. By August of 2024, a plea deal had gutted almost all of it. He pleaded guilty to 1 count of 4th-degree child abuse and 1 count of contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Everything else, including both sexual conduct charges, was dismissed. His sentence? 365 days in county jail and about $1,700 in fines. 9 charges, 2 convictions, a year in county jail. Hickman married Katie in 2011. They built a house-flipping business together using money from a settlement she'd received. Katie filed for divorce in September 2023. After a failed attempt at reconciliation, the divorce was finalized around July 2025, with property disputes still dragging on. It went to trial, and Judge Melissa Ransom's written opinion didn't hold back. She called domestic violence allegations the heart of the case, and described the marriage as marked by significant dysfunction and mutual toxicity, with both sides accusing the other. Katie told the court the marriage was defined by control, coercion, and fear, alleging threats of violence and sexual assault, financial control, and misappropriated renovation money. Hickman denied everything, claiming Katie fabricated the allegations to take assets in the divorce, accused her of trying to blackmail him, and said she broke into his apartment and stole his belongings. Judge Ransom ultimately found both sides credible but inconsistent and split their property without ruling decisively for either one. Hickman didn't stay quiet. He posted the judge's opinion publicly on Facebook and called it total vindication, writing that everything his ex-wife said about him was a lie and that leaving Katie was the best thing he ever did. After the shooting, Katie, now going by Katie Fry, posted that she and her kids were safe, then publicly blamed the prosecutor's office and Judge Ransom for letting him walk free after everything he'd done to her and her children. Tim Penrose, a neighbor who'd once rented from the Hickmans, described Chad as extremely aggressive, someone who could go off at any moment. After Hickman moved into the neighborhood following his release from jail, Penrose said he harassed him and his wife constantly, coming out into the street multiple times trying to start fights. Back when Penrose rented from the Hickmans, he'd found syringes and steroids in the refrigerator. When it was over, Penrose said none of the neighbors were surprised. He also said he saw Katie speaking with police in the aftermath. Motive: still unreleased. The identities and relationships of the 4th and 5th victims, still unconfirmed by police. And the full details of that original 2010 incident, resolved 14 years later through a plea deal that dismissed most of the charges, may never fully surface.
Not only is this difficult for our investigators and our troopers, but it's very hard for this community. You know, this type of loss is tragic, and we're going to conduct a thorough investigation, and we want to make sure to keep our community members up to date on our current situation and what we're discovering throughout this process.
Miller says that there is no threat to public, and despite resources being tied up at scenes, police are still patrolling and the community is responding to calls for service.
Right now, you're taking a live look at Cadillac, Michigan, and I'm told that this is in the same county as where this shooting situation took place. Unfortunately, this is a bit of a rural area. We don't quite have the same news sources that we would have in a bigger city, so we don't have footage of the scene at this time. This camera is in the county where this is taking place in. The local police department sent out a update, and it's a lengthy update. I just want to read verbatim what detectives from the Michigan State Police are saying about this situation. I'll read it as such. Michigan State Police, Cadillac Post, are investigating the deaths of 6 individuals, including a suspect discovered in 3 different locations in northern lower Michigan.
Missaukee County is small enough that everyone knows everyone. A local resident described it as a first-name basis community, the kind of place where a road you drive every day suddenly becomes a crime scene. The case has already entered Michigan's political conversation. Gubernatorial candidate Jocelyn Benson pointed to it during a panel on gun violence, tying it to gaps in the state's red flag law, which lets family, police, or medical professionals petition a court to remove someone's firearms. The catch? Someone has to see the danger coming and be willing to go to court over it. And in a small county where everyone knows each other, that's not a simple ask. Nobody has said whether that was ever considered here. A documented criminal record, a divorce trial that laid out serious allegations on the public record, a neighbor who says nobody who knew Hickman was surprised. None of it stopped August 14th. 6 people dead, a 13-year-old alive because she refused to stop fighting. A man with a documented history of violence went from celebrating his divorce online to becoming the center of one of the worst mass shootings Michigan has seen in years, and the system that already had his file on record still couldn't stop it. The investigation is still open. If you want the update the moment new details drop, hit subscribe and turn on notifications.